over. Okay, so piggybacking on number 2, which was building that support system, was creating spaces for open dialogue. So this one, it really is creating a safe space, right? Safe space for people who aren't going to feel like they're being judged or put on blast if you want.
Right.
But it's very important because you're not going to be able to feel like you can open up about health issues or about feelings of judgment and bias if you're feeling like you're being judged.
Yep.
So one of my ideas there is getting feedback or buy-in from people on the team to make sure that they feel safe in sharing those thoughts and opinions. And that can be done with those anonymous surveys. And I think that's going to be a really important piece of building inclusive environments that we have as a staple among most of these tips, right?
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, it's interesting too because I think oftentimes we say, oh, we're inclusive or we have open dialogue. Like, it's one thing to say and it's actually another to do. But I think the anonymous surveys are great. And I think if you've passed that and then you're in this environment with people in your group, I love doing some design thinking where it's so fun. It's my favorite, maybe because I like Post-its and colors. I don't know. It's like so fun. But I was working with an organization 2 weeks ago, and let's come up with some best practices, things that are important to you in terms of communication, what you want to get out of meetings. So everybody used one Post-it for each note, and I put it all over the board and put pieces together. And it just started to get the ball rolling of, we're going to treat each other with respect. We're going to listen before somebody else speaks. When you have buy-in and when you create those rules, those best practices together, you're more invested. So it's not coming from the top down or supervisor saying, these are the 10 rules we have to abide by. This is, we've collectively come up with this, and this is how we want to support one another, which I think is so key.
I love that. And that leads so quickly into hack number 4, which is getting feedback or being open to feedback as a leader. One of my biggest pet peeves is working for those or working with a client that is one of those really pigeonholed minded people who think that what they're doing is perfect, they just need an extra helping hand, and they have no room for improvement, which is ridiculous because we all do. We're all human. Nobody's perfect. We all have weaknesses. Yeah. So I love your idea there about creating that vision board based on design thinking, right? And having people create their opinions and ideas on Post-it notes and bringing them together, because that doesn't show whose idea is which, right? When you just put them together and mix them up, it's group thinking. It's a group process.
Yeah.
Magic. I love it. What's your action step for that plan?
Well, even when you're talking about feedback right now, I think that was also interesting. I had a conversation the other day with a client, and it's when you ask for feedback, get ready to hear the answer and do something with it. Because oftentimes, like, can you give me feedback on this? And you're like, well, I don't agree with your feedback, or I'm not going to. Be ready to hear the answer. Be ready to do something about it. Because I think feedback is a gift, whether it's something you wanted to hear or not. It's an excellent source of information to be able to change or shape or mold what you're doing, but be ready to do something with it, because they're else they're just asking people and kind of wasting their time.
Absolutely. And a really important piece to this hack number 4 is that you also have to have the right mindset for receiving that feedback, right? For my personal example is that a few years ago, I was working for a company, and my manager told me that I needed to take more accountability for things. And I got really salty about it. I was like, I'm accountable. I'm one of the most accountable people that I know. I'm here to take the blame for everyone and everything. But I think that was the piece of it, is that I was so hurt by that piece of my feedback or my constructive criticism, and then I did like a video content on LinkedIn, like, consider the source, but then I was like, no, I'm getting salty again. I wasn't ready to take that feedback. And really, I do need to take accountability for being a strong leader. And, that's par for the course. So it really helps being in a good, stable mindset to understand where the person is coming from or your team is coming from, and knowing that it's coming from a good place, and that sometimes that negativity is fed out of ignorance, not out of hatred, not out of somebody thinking less of you. So it's really important to practice that as you build your team in that safe space.
And it's tough too, right? As much as we say, oh, everything's personal, it's not personal, it's professional.
Yeah.
It's so
No,
hard when
it's
you're in
always
the moment, right? To read it and be like, they don't like me. Why am I working here? What's going on? And
Yeah.
and I think, getting a coach or working with somebody afterwards, like a 360 review or something where it's anonymous, you have all this information, but work with somebody, maybe it's somebody in HR and they have an outsourced person to help you work through it. So you're not internalizing everything and have no idea what to do with it or what it means. Getting that
Yes.
outside person who's unbiased is so crucial to
Oh my
making
goodness.
changes.
And that's the perfect segue into hack number 5, which is to open up seats at the table. So you mentioned a coach, working with a coach to help give you that outside expertise. But I think what you meant here, can you explain it a little bit more about opening that seats up?
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I think structures of organizations are changing a lot because oftentimes we're saying, oh, we used to say, let's go up the ladder, or, you want to go to this step or this step or this step. But it's opening up the seats at the table to have a conversation, regardless of your level. Even if you just started yesterday, you were clearly hired for a reason, have something to offer, versus been there forever, the CEO of the company. Opening seats so everybody's a part of the conversation or at least know what's going on. It might not be a seat at every meeting. It might not be all seats, but if somebody has shown leadership, if somebody has a great story they want to tell or a project they want to bring, it's so much easier to understand it if I talked about it, if I talk about it, the project, versus me tell you and you tell someone else. And then it just doesn't get kind of the clout that maybe it should or shouldn't moving forward.
Right. It's like that game of telephone, right? It
Yes.
starts strong, but
Do
ends
that all the
super
time.
weak.
Whisper down the lane. It's exactly what it is. And you're like, I don't think that that's what that person meant, but they're not here. So we're going to have another meeting to talk about this
Oh my
meeting that
goodness.
felt
Yeah.
right. And then,
Oh, 3 hours wasted of constructive time, right? At
right?
the end of the month. I know. But it's really important to understand that, does everybody look like you? Does everybody act like you? Does everybody in the room order coffee over tea? Do we all prefer chocolate over sweet over salty? No, everybody's different. And so making sure that you have somebody of every kind of background to bring in those thoughts, ideas, opinions in that safe space really is that recipe for a great cookie, for a great batch of cookies.
Now I'm hungry. No, but
Yeah.
it's true. And so many organizations have like ERG groups or affinity groups, and they're not meant to just be, I don't think, just these standalone groups that do their own things and then happen to invite the organization. You have people who are either allies of these groups or identify as someone within those groups. Bring them to a meeting. How does this new ad look? How do you resonate with this? Or what does this look like? You have people right there. You can't make assumptions about how other people think or feel. Use them. Ask the questions.